Okay, generics. So generics allow us to make our lists or anything work with more than one type. So at the moment, we've hard-coded our node to only work with ints. I don't want that. I want this to work with any type. Now, you might say, well, I can do that by doing object. Right? And we'll just make this return object. And that's happy. And we'll go to list. And it's not happy because it doesn't know about this. You know, we have to set this to object. And main is happy, and let's try running it. And it's all good. It worked out great. The problem is, I can do funny things now. Oh, sorry. The add has to also take an object. And the node constructor has to take an object. Wow, I missed a few places. So now it should work, and it should do that. So if I only wanted a list of integers, I've got a problem because now I have a string in there, and that's going to cause me a problem. And it's worse because that could have been put in like an hour ago. Pardon me. That could have been put in an hour ago, and I'm just finding out about it now. I have no idea. I insert things into the data all over the place, and I have into the list all over the place, and I have no idea where that got inserted. That's a huge mistake. So I don't want that. I want to make sure that I don't have this ability to put the wrong thing in. And I want the ability for it to be quite flexible, which means that I've got a problem, right? There's a number of ways I could go around fixing this, but the way Java did it was they added this thing called generics. They're not the only language to have generics, far from it. The syntax is borrowed from C++. I don't know where C++ borrowed their syntax from, but I know there were languages that preceded it that had them too. So we typically call it T, and what we do is we make the class have this thing called T. Right? And everywhere where we've used node, it's going to tell us that we need to put in a node T. So what on earth is T? Right? Well, T quite simply is when we go to create a node, and I'll just finish adding the T's here. When we go to say that we want to use a node, we're saying that we want to specify the type. That's what T is. T stands for type. Same with list, because we made the node use generics, we need to get that generic from somewhere, so we're going to get it from the list. Now the problem is that over here it's unhappy because we haven't given it a T. What the heck is T? Well, there is where I'm going to put in the word integer. Because I only want my list to support integers. And we see it's still compiling. Let's see what happens. It still works. So I haven't fixed the problem. So the reason the problem hasn't been fixed is this takes object. It should take T. This shouldn't be value. It should be T. I'm going to come back and re-explain this shortly. And then list is going to have the same problem, right? We're passing an object, but it's supposed to be a T. So all I have to do is change this to T. I think that's it. And now when we go to compile it, it doesn't compile. So the reason it doesn't compile is that we've said this list can only hold integers, and here we are giving it a string. A string is not a kind of integer, it's not allowed to happen. So we can't do that. Okay, the compiler tells us. So before, when we were passing objects, we'd find out at runtime. Now with generics, we're finding out at compile time. Very simply, in essence, what happens, this is not what really happens, but in essence what happens, you can consider it happening this way. When we say list integer, the compiler goes off and makes a whole brand new class. It does not make a new class. It's actually done through a whole bunch of trickery. But it makes a new class of list where all the T's have been replaced with integer. Right? So this is integer now. And it does the same thing with nodes. You have a new class node that replaced all the T's with integer. So this became integer. This became integer. This became integer. Right? The point is that the compiler now is able to specify, okay, when you've got a list, you specify it to be an integer. And you'll notice this is grayed out. We actually don't have to do that anymore. It used to be have to be done. You might see code that still does it, your books or videos or whatever, websites, but you don't have to do that. So we were able to specify that this is a list of integers. We could change it to a list of strings, or we can add a whole other list of strings. And we can do this exact same thing. And now we have written, this should be list 2. Now we've written one class, one list class, that works for either integers or strings, and we didn't have to do any extra work. All we had to do was say that this node is generic, so we can change this at our choosing to be integer or string or anything else. All of the other T's change to integer or string. The list, it changes everything from integer to string or whatever we want. Right? So we only have to write the list once, we only have to write the node once. And main can use either one at once. Sorry, I'm having an allergy day. Yeah, that's the point of generics. There's another video I'll make that is on some more advanced things we can do with generics.